Welcome to the Can of Corn Podcast, the podcast for baseball fans by baseball fans. I'm William Wilson, and I'm here with my co-host,
Eric Harper.
And today we'll be talking about three legends, Tom Seaver, Lou Brock, and Roberto Clemente. We'll also be talking about the shift and its role in baseball. And then we'll also be talking about the fantasy teams, historical and current, that Eric and I have put together. So stay with us. I think we're going to have a great episode. Eric, baseball ends this month. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. As they say, it's this season is a sprint, not a marathon. And it still, to me, feels like we just got started. But yeah, the fan of me, very sad that it's going to be ending soon. But I'm excited for the postseason.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sad that it is ending soon, but in a way, I'm happy that it's ending soon because me as a Diamondbacks fan and you as a Red Sox fan, we can both agree this was not the greatest of years for us.
That's definitely true. Very soon the torture will be over for us.
Exactly. All right, well, let's just jump right into it. Tom Seaver, Lou Brock, and Roberto Clemente. Three legends on and off the field. Unfortunately, two of them, Tom Seaver and Lou Brock, we recently lost. And we've lost Roberto Clemente a while ago, but he's still a major part of baseball, as seen by Roberto Clemente Day this last Wednesday. And I think that all three of them brought so much to the game of baseball, but they brought so much more to this world other than baseball. They were all great guys, hearts of gold, just overall nice guys.
You're absolutely right, William. The stories that I've heard from professionals that were teammates of theirs just couldn't really speak highly enough of these guys. We as fans, of course, didn't get to see that side of them. We only got to see the highlights, the old film. I know you and I weren't alive to really see any of these guys play, but the old-time footage of these guys and just what they did on the diamond was just incredible. But to also hear the stories from their teammates of how that was just a small part of who they were and what they did off the field was so much greater than their massive accomplishments on the field was pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, my dad was alive during all of these guys' careers, and he texted me the morning that Tom Seaver died, and he said, it's really sad. It's just such a great guy. And then, sure enough, not too long after that, we lost Lou Brock, and he said the same thing. And he was lucky enough to be around and watch these guys' careers and see them play, along with Roberto Clemente. And I really envy, the older generation that got to see these guys play and got to see their accomplishments. Like you said, we're stuck to old footage, but it's something. And we also get the stories and we get the positives that they brought to the diamond and outside the diamond.
Absolutely, William. Like with Tom Seaver, did a little bit of research on these three guys. Tom Seaver, 1967, Rookie of the Year. He led the league in 3 times in 1969, 75, and 81. That really stood out to me. The fact that you can lead the league in wins in 3 different decades is really a testament of the talent that you have. He was just incredible. 3 ERA titles, 12-time All-Star, led the league in strikeouts 5 times, including 9 consecutive seasons of 200 or more strikeouts, 3 Cy Young Awards, and of course the 1969 World Series. Also really cool, he was 4th on the all-time strikeout list at the time of his retirement in 1986, and I think even to this day, he was, and I think still is, the face of the Mets franchise. Him, David Wright, Keith Hernandez. I mean, you got a ton of great players, but The Mets became a ball club um, in 1962, if I'm not mistaken. And the fact that just right off the bat, you got this guy that won Rookie of the Year, and um, and then just immediately became the face of the franchise. I mean, all of that pressure put on him. I mean, he really carried that team for years. Um, and I don't know if there is a more beloved player in Queens than Tom Seaver.
Yeah, he's that that stat sheet just speaks for itself. Uh, this the ERA titles alone. I know that we have a lot more metrics than ERA right now, but I think ERA still shows just how good of a pitcher someone is.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, we can get into a whole bunch of these crazy stats with these weird algorithms to calculate them and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, ERA is just so important. And the fact that he was able to perform at the big league level for decades, um, and you know wasn't just getting by on his name or his past accomplishments. I mean, yeah, he led the league in wins in 3 different decades. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And now I see that you've got some stats on Lou Brock. I have always been a fan of speed. I I have always subscribed to the thought that speed kills, and if you've got speed on your team, then you've always got a chance. And this guy is right up there with Ricky Henderson. He was a speed demon. He was a thief.
Yeah, that's so true. He had 3,000 plus hits and 1,600 or more runs in his career, 900 RBIs on the nose, and 938 stolen bases, which was the most all time at the time of his retirement. And I mean, you mentioned Ricky Henderson. I will just bring up Ricky real quick. The fact that Ricky then stole like 500 more bases than Lou Brock is pretty incredible. But yeah, Lou Brock breaking Ty Cobb's career record in stolen bases. Anytime that you can best Ty Cobb in anything, you're going to be an incredible player. He had almost 500 doubles, 140 plus triples, 140 plus home runs, and he's the only player ever to steal 50 or more bases in 12 consecutive seasons, including 118 in 1974. And that streak ended when Lou Brock was 37 years old. I'm 28, okay? These knees right now could not steal 50 bases in like on a softball field, all right? So there's just no way that I think anyone today, not a Mike Trout, not a Byron Buxton, none of these great guys, not a Billy Hamilton. I don't think any of these guys are stealing 50 or more bases a decade from now, which is just insane to me. He was a 6-time All Star, won 2 World Series titles. He was an MLB Player of the Year, and just really humble beginnings. And it just shows a testament of his hard work. He was born in 1939 to a family of sharecroppers who worked on a cotton plantation in Louisiana, and he didn't play organized baseball until he was 16 years old. And I find that insane. That you can go all of those years without playing organized baseball, and then you can excel at the highest level later on in your career. And here's another cool stat that I found out about Lou Brock. He was one of 4 players to hit a home run that reached the center field bleachers at the Polo Grounds. The others being Hank Aaron, Joe Adcock, and Babe Ruth. I mean, you and I both play MLB The Show. We have the Polo Grounds in that video game as a stadium that we can play in. Was it like 483 to center field? That's insane that anyone can reach that, especially a speed guy like Lou Brock. To be mentioned in the same sentence as a Hank Aaron or a Babe Ruth, I mean, it just shows the level of talent that this guy had. And from hearing interviews of his teammates, again, another one of these guys they couldn't speak highly enough of. Um, he always had a great attitude, and always let people know that uh, he had no reason to be upset. Um, for his upbringing, for what was going on in the country throughout his life, um, that he got to play baseball, and he was so fortunate, and he really spread that joy to his teammates, to the people who got to watch him play. Um, he just sounds like he was such a great person.
Yeah, I can't imagine 483 to dead center. A guy who's not known for power hitting something out of polo grounds. That's unbelievable. And then 118 stolen bases in a year. I mean, can you imagine seeing a player nowadays steal 118 bases? That stat will never ever be broken.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. I don't think we're seeing anyone in today's game steal that many bases. It's just incredible. Yeah, he was definitely uh, the star of the game of baseball that now no longer exists. Really, the kind of like you said, the speed demon guys. They hit for average. They steal bases. Um, you try to get them over to third as much as possible, and you let the big dogs after them drive them in. Yeah, he flourished in an era of baseball that doesn't exist anymore, and he really was incredible.
Couldn't agree with you more. Now we're going to talk about probably one of the greatest players and one of the greatest humanitarians that this planet's ever seen, in Roberto Clemente.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that sentiment alone, what you just said, William, is so true. I think his humanitarian efforts, and rightfully so, I think they overshadow his playing ability. When you think of Roberto Clemente, you think of his humanitarian efforts, how great of a person he was. Um, but when you look at the numbers, I mean, it's just incredible what this guy was able to accomplish on the field. 317 career hitter, 3,000 hits exactly, 1,400 plus runs, 1,300 plus RBIs. He had more than 400 doubles, more than 160 triples, 240 home runs. He had 4 batting titles, 12 gold gloves, an MVP. He won 2 World Series. He was a World Series MVP and also a 15-time All Star. I mean, it's just insane. I don't think that, and at least me personally, that kids these days really understand how great of a player he was. Again, like we all know, the humanitarian efforts, the tragedy surrounding his death, um, but his numbers are just insane. Unfortunately, passed away, of course, on New Year's Eve of 1972, attempting to deliver aid to Nicaragua after a devastating earthquake that occurred on December 23rd. The first 3 attempts to deliver that aid never reached the victims due to some corrupt government officials. So Clemente thought his presence on the plane would help ensure the aid would reach the victims. So this was the fourth trip that the supplies were being made. So as soon as that earthquake hit on December 23rd, Clemente immediately was moved to action to help people on a different part of the world from him. He had no ties there, from my understanding, and that was just the type of person that Clemente was. He immediately jumped into action, and unfortunately, on that trip that he was on, then he unfortunately, of course, passed away. And the following year, the Pirates in 1973 retired as number 21. And I think he should get the Jackie Robinson treatment. I think number 21 should be retired throughout all of baseball. I've read some threads online about Puerto Rican players not wanting the number 21 to be retired because they want to be able to wear it once they get to the big leagues, which I think is also a tremendous idea. Um, but if they do decide to retire it throughout all of baseball, I think that would be an incredible honor that I think Roberto definitely deserves.
I agree. It was really fun and really touching to see this past Roberto Clemente Day when all of the Pirates wore number 21. It was a great honor, and then I believe that was it. Every Latin American born player could wear the number 21 throughout baseball. That was a great honor to him, and I agree. I think he should have the Jackie Robinson treatment. I think he's one of the guys that stands above baseball, and he should have number 21 retired. Couldn't agree with you more on that. So now we've talked about three players that played in an era with completely different baseball. And now we're going to talk about the new era of baseball, the shift. um, what do you think of the shift?
I am not a huge fan of the shift in that I think that it stymies offense. I definitely think we're in an era of baseball where offense is, of course, sought after highly. You got this focus on launch angle and exit velocity, and telling guys that they have to hit it over the shift. So you got so many guys pulling the ball, and yeah, I think in an era of baseball where they're trying to make it more exciting and trying to get more offense, and then you also have the shift where it stymies offense. So it's a little bit of an oxymoron there for me. Um, and of course, I understand why it's used. As they say, hit them where they ain't. So if a guy wants to get on, then just really got to focus on hitting it to the opposite field, hitting it up the middle, sort of the slap hits of the Tony Gwynn era, the Ichiros, all of that stuff. So I understand that not a lot of guys can do that today. So you kind of play in the averages, of course, by employing the shift. But yeah, I guess I'm just not a fan because of its cutting down on the offense. I am a big fan of small ball. Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit on the fence about it, William, to be honest. But yeah, if I had to choose baseball with or without the shift, I think I would have to go without it.
I think I'm in a kind of a similar role in the fact that it's kind of on the fence for me, but I really could take it or leave it because I see it as a tool. I see it as managers and clubs playing the averages, playing the numbers, that sabermetrics. And I think that, the shift doesn't always work. It's kind of like an intentional walk. You're not gonna pitch to Trout because he might hit it over, but you're gonna pitch to the guy batting behind him. That might not work. That might blow up in your face. So, when factoring in like all batted ball types, ground ball, line drive, the MLB average on balls in play has remained pretty much the same. In 2010, which was a relatively shift-free season, the league-wide batting average on balls in play for all configurations of the defense was 297. And last year in 2019, it was 296. So the figure has held relatively steady, even while scoring and slugging have increased, despite use of the shifts that have been growing. So I think it's definitely something that's controversial because like you said, there is this growing want and need for greater offense. But it's just one of those things. If the managers want to play the averages, they can play the averages. Um, I also think that teams and players are learning how to defeat the shift. Learning, hey, if I'm a left-handed batter and I lay a little dribbler down the third base line, that's an easy one bag. If I hit it the other way, if I change my launch angle and just pop it over that defensive alignment, I think that it's definitely one of the things that I could take or leave, but I do appreciate the discussions that are going on around it. So let's go ahead and move on to our fantasy teams. So Eric and I have put together our fantasy teams for current and historical teams. Now, current teams are any active players. Historical teams are any inactive players. I think we might get some blowback on this because there are definitely some players that were left off of my lists that you could definitely make an argument for should be there. But this is just one of those personal opinion things. However you want to build a team, you can build it. How do you want to do this? Do you want to just go through your current team and then I'll go through my current team?
Yeah, sure, William. That sounds great. So my current team, I'll start off with my manager. I went ahead and chose Dave Roberts as the manager of my current team. I think he's a guy that just knows how to win baseball games. Back-to-back pennants. As you mentioned before, getting blowback for some of these choices. Maybe I will just for Dave Roberts. I know
you're going to get it from me, that's for sure.
I know there's some controversy as far as his managing ability in the postseason. But I think he definitely gives teams a good chance at winning a baseball game. He's a postseason hero, of course, for my Red Sox. I can't thank him enough for 2004. So I think he's a guy that definitely knows the mindset that you have to be in once the calendar changes over to October. But getting into my lineup, I have batting leadoff Mookie Betts in right field. I think he, in my opinion, is the best offensive and defensive right fielder in the game today. I got Trout batting second in center field, of course. Left field, I went with Cody Bellinger. Then batting cleanup, I've got Freddie Freeman at first base, just having a monster year this year. DJ LeMahieu at second base. I mean, this is a guy that seems like he's unlocked the secret to hitting 330 or 340 every single year. At shortstop, I've got Tatis. Just an incredible year for him. Third base, this might be where I lose some people here. I've got Manny Machado at third base. And this is going off of current performance. I know any other season you have to go with Arenado. I mean, there's three facts of life: death, taxes, and Arenado winning a Gold Glove at third base. But I went with Machado. He's having just an incredible offensive year this year. And at catcher, I went with Severino, another one of these guys who has incredible batting average. On-base percentage is through the roof. And then lastly, my current pitcher that I went with Shane Bieber. He was lossless until recently. Winless would not be good.
No.
He was lossless until recently. And just leading baseball in essentially every category that a pitcher can. He's having a breakout year. The future is super bright for Shane Bieber.
And then I also see that you have a DH up there as well in case we're living in 2020.
That is true. DH, I went ahead and chose Nelson Cruz. I mean, this guy is like a fine wine. He just is getting better with age. He's batting what, like 340 something right now, right at the top of all of baseball and home runs. His OPS is insane. I mean, it's Trout territory. He's just having an incredible year, and so at his age, being able to perform this highly is pretty inspiring as well. But yeah, just based off of his numbers, he's killing it right now.
I didn't realize how old he was and how long he's been in the league until recently. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so from my current team, I went with manager Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker has been around for 22 seasons, I believe. He just knows how to get the best out of his players. He's a great strategist. He's always got a cool head. You get into a situation, I think, that I would want Dusty Baker at the helm. As far as, so I do have a little bit of wiggle room in between my DH and my non-DH. So for my non-DH team, I've got Fernando Tatis playing shortstop, batting leadoff. I do not have Machado. I have Nolan Arenado at third base. DJ LeMahieu at second. Mike Trout in center field. Cody Bellinger at first. Christian Yelich in left field. Aaron Judge in right field. He's a monster of a man, and just watching him hit those dingers is amazing. I've also got Yasmani Grandal at catcher, and my pitcher is Jacob deGrom. I think probably one of the best pitchers in baseball at this time. And the only difference I have really is instead of right field, I've got Mookie Betts playing hitting DH and batting leadoff. Great speed, great hitter. So I've got him in leadoff spot as my DH.
Nice. That's a pretty great lineup there, William. Yeah, I think definitely Jacob deGrom is going to be one of these guys that you see enshrined in Cooperstown once he calls it quits. I mean, so many guys on these teams, of course, Mike Trout as well, Nolan Arenado, but yeah, I think your lineup has a lot of future Hall of Famers on it. So I think I think if we were to play the show, your lineup versus my lineup, it might be even, but I think I'd give you the slight edge on that one.
We have a lot of crossover. I think the only thing that we really differed on was first base and third base and catcher. But yeah, both solid lineups. I think we should put this together in the show and just see what happens. All right, let's hear your historical team.
All right, so my historical team, I went ahead and I followed suit. Followed your example for the manager. I went ahead and did Casey Stengel, just archive footage of his players talking about him. Another one of these guys that just seemed like he knew how to win baseball games. Of course, his managerial stats speak for themselves. And then as far as my lineups go, without DH, I have Honus Wagner batting leadoff, playing shortstop. Second is Willie Mays in center field. Third is Babe Ruth in right field. Fourth is Ted Williams in left field. Then I went ahead and did Gehrig at first base, Rogers Hornsby at second, Mike Schmidt at third, Josh Gibson at catcher, and then my pitcher I went ahead and did Christy Mathewson. And then with DH, essentially the same lineup, except I have Tony Gwynn in right, and it looks like I put Babe Ruth as a DH there, still in the number 3 spot. Had to do Tony Gwynn, my favorite player, and yeah, gotta have that 338 lifetime batting average batting leadoff for you.
He's just an unbelievable player, and he was consistent even up until the later days of his career. He was just slapping the ball out there. It was amazing to watch. So, like you said, I did have Casey Stengel as my manager. Um, this is going to be a much different lineup than yours. We do have some similarities. I do have two players batting leadoff that are pretty recent. So batting leadoff for me is left field, Ricky Henderson. And then right behind him in right field is Ichiro. I had to have them up front. Both of them great hitters, especially Ichiro. But like I said earlier, speed kills. You get those two guys on base early, you're going to have a good time. I got Jimmy Fox at first base. And then Mike Schmidt at third, batting cleanup. Ty Cobb in center field. Roger Hornsby at second. Johnny Bench playing catcher. Honus Wagner at shortstop. And then I've got Bob Gibson as my pitcher. For DH, it's pretty much the same lineup except for batting third. For DH, I've got Tony Gwynn. Just like you said, it's 338. You got to have him in there somewhere. And I went with Bob Gibson because he forced the league to lower the mound because he was too good. And just he can blow it by anybody. He's had nasty stuff. I can't think of another player that impacted the game as much as him, like physically. Getting in the league to lower a mound is a pretty big thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What I really like about your lineup that I just noticed actually is you've got, of course, like you said, Ricky Henderson, Ichiro, and then you've got the big bats after them, and then the lineup kind of resets almost, where you got the great average in Ty Cobb and Rogers Hornsby, of course, 367 average for Cobb and 358 lifetime for Hornsby right after that. And then you got another power bat in Johnny Bench. And then it kind of resets again with Honus Wagner. I think he was like 328 lifetime, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of, speed guys power, it just kind of resets. I think that's pretty cool. That would be an incredible lineup to watch. Ricky Henderson, Ichiro, and then you got Double X, the Beast right after that. I mean, what do they say about Jimmy Fox? They said that he wasn't scouted, he was caught. So that would be an incredible lineup to watch.
Yeah, it's you got to keep the defense and the pitchers on the toes. You never, you think you're pitching around some big bats, and then you got big bat and then speed. Well, I really enjoyed putting together these lineups. It was a lot of fun, and it was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I think both of us, if anybody wants to reach out to us, I think they would have some issues with both of our lineups. But I think that if you put these lineups out there, they're going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, it was super fun activity to try to think of what your favorite all-time lineup would be. Yeah, you just got these nine or 10 positions, of course, if you're including the DH, where you're just trying to think of, hey, who could be considered the best of all time at this position, and then you repeat that for 10 times. I think it was super fun. I encourage anyone listening to this to try it themselves, see what their lineup would look like, if they have anything that is similar to ours. Yeah, it's just a pretty fun activity. And it also lets you sort of dive into the stats for these guys a little bit more, learn a little bit more about them, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's great to go through and look at these players and look at their stats, look at the old film. I encourage anybody who, is part of a younger generation like we are to do this and to see that baseball was a much different sport. And these guys that we're talking about right now in these historical teams were great. And you could say, you didn't have the juiced ball, and the pitching was different, and everything was different, but there's no getting around the numbers that you see when you look at these historical players. So I want to thank everyone for listening to the Can of Corn podcast. Be sure to show us some love by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with us, share us your historical and current lineups. You can always email us at thecanofcornpodcast@gmail.com. Eric, I had a lot of fun this week. How about you?
Yeah, super fun. I'm really glad that you had the idea to do these lineups. Yeah, just had a blast.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Tune in next week for more baseball talk. See you later, and so long, everybody.